Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. We are from Group 11. Today we will present the materials of our discuss materials design. First, I will explain to you all about definition of material design. In defining the purpose of the materials, can identify some principles that will guide us to the actual writing of the materials. English for specific purpose is teaching with has specified objective. So why has ESP become such an important part of English language teaching? In a ESP student hope by learning ESP can serve as a guide to our present and future. So definitions of designs of teaching materials is requires the student's teacher to take a set of decisions, make choice and explain the reasons from them. Materials observably reflect the writer's view of language and learning, and teachers and students too. They are well response according to how well this matches their own belief and expectations. Language is as it is because of the purpose we put it to for the reasons. Materials must can contextualize the language they present. Like starting by asking yourself the question, what shall the materials do? The materials do are A. Materials provide a stimulus to the learning process. B. Materials help to organize the teaching learning process. C. Materials contain a view of the nature of language learning. D. Materials reflect the nature of the learning text. E. Materials can have a very useful function in broadening the basis of teacher training. And F. Materials provide models of correct and appropriate language use. So teachers who take part in materials development workshops and courses generally commence a course with very little awareness of the kinds of knowledge and skills involved in development classroom materials, and as observed above often underestimate the nature of the skills involved.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about material design of sample. As the unit title indicates, language is approached through an area of content. The topic represents a command from a technical discourse describing circulatory system, although in this case presented from an unusual point of view. The starter plays a number of important roles. Number 1, it creates a context of knowledge for the comprehension of the input. Comprehension in the ESP classroom is often more difficult than in real life because texts are taken in isolation and the outside world. A text would normally appear in a context, which provides reference point to assess understanding. Number 2, it activates the learner's minds and gets them thinking. They can then approach the text in an active frame of mind. The third, it arouses the learner's interest in the topic. Number 4, it reveals what we learners already know in terms of language and content. In this case, the teacher can then adjust the lesson to take this into account. And the last one, it provides a meaningful context in which to introduce a new vocabulary or grammatical items. Okay, so this section practices extracting information from the input and begin the process of releasing this content and language to a wider context. So, learners should always be encouraged to find answers for themselves wherever possible. It is possible to incorporate opportunities for the learners to use their own knowledge and abilities at any stage. It is particularly useful to do this as soon as a basic information contained in the input has been identified, in order to reinforce connection between this and the learner's own interests and needs. Here, for example, the learners are required to go beyond the information in the input. They have to relate the subject matter to their own knowledge and reasoning powers, but still using the language they have been learning.
Okay, I will explain about a material design model. The first is input. This may be a text, dialogue, video recording, diagram, or any piece of the communication data, depending on the niche you have defined in your analysis. The input provides a number of things. 1. Stimulus material for activities. 2. New language items. 3. Correct models of language use. 4. A topic for communication. 5. Opportunities for learners to use their information processing skill. 6. Opportunities for learners to use their existing knowledge but of the language and the subject matter. Next, the second is content focus. Language is not an end in itself but a means of transferring information and feelings about something. Non-linguistic content should be exploited to generate meaningful communication in the classroom. The third is language focus. Our aim is to enable learners to use language, but it is unfair to give learners communicative texts and activities for which they do not have enough language knowledge. In language focus, learners have the chance to take the language to pitch, study how it works, and practice putting it back together again. The fourth is text. The ultimate purpose of language learning is language use. Materials should be designed to lead towards a communicative text in which learners use the content and language knowledge they have built up throughout the unit. These four elements combine in the model as follows. The primary focus of the unit is text. The language and content are drawn for the input and are selected according to what the learners will need in order to the text. It follows that an important feature of the models is to create coherence in terms of both language and content throughout the unit. This provides the superformer complex activities by building up and fund of knowledge and skill. That's all our presentation. Thank you. And any question?